All right, guys, welcome back to the Sleuth Intuition channel. I'm your host, Patrick Vallejos. We are broadcasting to the world live from Phoenix, Arizona. Today, we are covering the Flora arson murders, Flora, Indiana, four young sisters that perished in a fire that was deliberately set. This took place in 2016. So, what I want to do with your help, with the help of the chat, you in the comments section, replay crew, all of you, we'll do our best to profile the person responsible for the Flora arson fire. We're going to look a little bit at what it means to create a profile, what is profiling. We'll look at a handful of cases. Most of the cases that I have lined up are aimed at serial arson, but they have interviews with experts, FBI, former investigators, who might help us understand better who's responsible for the Flora fires. So let me pull up some of these articles that I had bookmarked. Just be a second, guys. All right. This is from the U.S. Department of Justice. A report of essential findings from a study of serial arsonists. So they basically profile statistically those who are out there committing these types of crimes. What's up, Don Spain? Hope you feel better soon, friend. She Warrior. Have a great day at work. Miss Dog Lover, welcome in. Hiawatha. Inquisitive, how you doing? Welcome in. Phil Bond. And Rescue All the Dogs. Welcome in, everybody. Okay, so the Flora fires happened November 21st, 2016. I think we'll start with the case overview. We'll go over all the facts surrounding that case, and then we'll kind of get into all of those other ones and see what we can find out, what we can learn. I'm hoping to glean some kind of information, but mainly I'm searching for insight. You know, a lot of those other cases are solved. They've interviewed their suspects. They have motive, and a lot of it's pretty strange. Hold on, I thought I had a different article. Yeah, let's go here first. All right, this is from ABC News, Inside the Mind of an Arsonist. Stop my cam. Maybe that'll help it. Seems to be buffering. All right, authorities in Los Angeles are reporting they have a suspect in connection with the 55 fires, and this was posted 2012, that have been set in the city over the last 4 days. Upon his detention, the suspect told authorities, "I hate America." According to ABC News, sources directly involved in the case, a statement that experts say demonstrates the sort of anger typical of a serial arsonist. Okay. So that's the first thing that I'm going to write down for our profile. Even though I think you can be curious, but I think that's indicative of like a younger suspect. So just for now, I'm going to write down anger. So They say that's a statement that experts say demonstrates the sort of anger typical of a serial arsonist. Anger is associated with any form of destructive arson. According to Dr. Joel Voskin, a member of the American Board of Forensic Psychology, ABC News consultant and former FBI agent Brad Garrett described the typical arsonist as a white male, mid-teens to 25 to 30 years. All right, so I'm going to include that as well. And we'll follow up on all of this. So far, anger, white male, mid-teens to 25 to 30. Years old. According to Garrett, they tend to be undereducated. Okay, so we'll include that. Undereducated. Non-graduate. Okay, according to Garrett, they tend to be undereducated. Many of them have not graduated from high school and have average to below average IQ. So average to below average. But the common theme in all of them is all of them are troubled. They feel isolated. Okay, isolated. They feel outside of the world. They're angry at the world. They want to take revenge sometimes, and that is one of the motives of arsonist is revenge. Okay, revenge. They want to take revenge. Sometimes that is one of the motives of arsonists is revenge. They're just angry in general, so they take off and light fires. All right, we'll pause there. Okay, so far we have angry, white male, mid-teens, 25 to 30 or 25 to 30, undereducated, non-graduate, average to below average IQ, may feel isolated, may be motivated by revenge against the world itself. What's up, Sydney? Hiawatha, welcome in. Oh, S and K. We all know what that is. What's going on, Mustang? Rescue All Dog says Kiani would be 13 and Kiana would be 19 now. Rest in peace, baby girls. Justice is only the outcome we'll accept. Yeah, this is an unsolved crime. 4 sisters that were murdered. I mean, we're talking about 4 young sisters, young girls. How old was the oldest? 11? 11 or 12? Ranging from 11, I think 11 to 5. Welcome in, Boston. What's up, Necessary Evil? Rescue All Dog says Kiana, Kiara, Cariel, Kiani, loved forever. That was nice of you, Rescue. What's going on, right field? Okay, so if you guys are just joining us, we're going to put together an amateur profile with what we've learned, victimology, criminology. It's hard to use victimology in this case because we're not sure who the target was, right? We don't know, was the house targeted? There's multiple families there. There's rumors of people who were hanging out earlier in the day. Maybe somebody was targeting them. So I think it's hard to work with the victimology, but the criminology and trying to put together a profile, I think, can be helpful while looking at all of the facts and bringing attention to the case, Rescue says 11. Okay, that's what I thought. Good to see you, Charles. Oh, so we have a birthday coming up, Kiani. Happy early birthday. Heavenly birthday. Okay, so if you're just joining, we're creating an amateur profile of who may be responsible for the Flora fires. We're going to take all those case facts and try to put something together. We know the fire was started really late at night. I don't know if that tells us anything. Um, we know that the first responder, who is my person of interest, and is currently serving time in prison, and has proven to be violent and basically a degenerate. He fits all of these right here. And that's kind of why he is my person of interest. So the profile that we should be looking for, according to this article here and the information provided, somebody who's extremely angry. Typically, now, it may not be, it may be a one off or an anomaly, but typically we're looking for somebody who's very angry, a white male, mid teens to 25 to 30 years old, undereducated, non graduate, average to below average IQ, isolated, and motivated by revenge. Mustang says justice for Kiana, Kiari, Cariel, and Kiani. Thank you, Mustang. Necessary Evil says, when in doubt, follow the money. A lot of these red flags that are pointed out in some of this information say that one of the main motivators is financial. And the person of interest of mine is connected to the home and connected to the owners. But I don't think in this case, it was financially motivated. It could be, don't get me wrong. I just don't have any information that ties that all in yet. And it's been scrutinized quite a bit. All right, let's continue on. So this would seem to fit with the story of the primary suspect, whose sources say may have been motivated by a deportation hearing against his mother that took place in LA County about a week and a half ago. Another motive can be a desire for attention. Okay, so next to all of these potential motivating factors, I'm going to kind of put an asterisk. So revenge, put a little star next to it. We'll include attention. And we'll go ahead and highlight that one. So another motive can be a desire for attention. It's an exciting thing to do, and it's a dangerous thing to do. And it does draw attention to them. Maybe not directly, personally to them, but it draws attention to their behavior. I do think that it is a component to every serial arsonist, the thrill of setting the fire and the power it gives them as a result of killing people, torching property. It's like, look what I have done. It's like a product of them. Power. So that'll be another motivator. Okay, Garrett speculated that this may be a contributing factor to the most recent string of arsons. It would appear that primary motive may not be killing people. The primary motive may be attention because he is setting fires to vehicles that are not apparently occupied. Well, that's definitely not the case in the Flora fires. But the location of it may indicate that their intention was not to murder, but I don't know. I feel like if they knew that Galen was laying with her door open, like they kind of walked in there and saw, they're not going to go in front of her door and start splashing accelerant around or even walking around for that. So maybe the reason that they put accelerants in the rooms that they did was that's pretty much as far as they could go without drawing attention to themselves. Or it was just quick. Okay, for the roughly 1/3 of arsonists who return to the scene of the crime, the primary attraction can be the desire for control and power. So let's note that. Return to the scene of the crime. And we do have the dash cam footage, so I wonder if anything can be found there. Return to the scene of the crime. So I think there's a good chance that the person responsible for the Flora fire is on that dash cam footage, whether it's briefly in the background. I believe he's probably there. The primary attraction can be desire for control and power. When they return to watch firemen fight the blaze, an arsonist may be thinking, I created this scene. I'm actually controlling what they're doing because I started the fire. That's a very powerful statement, he added. It becomes a thrill, something that gives them purpose every day. However, in this case, that may not be the motivation, according to Robert Rowe, the CEO of PyroCop Inc. I don't believe that this particular individual is sticking around to watch his work, he said, adding that he thinks the culprit aim is most likely to create as much damage and wreak as much havoc as possible. All right, so we'll pause right there. What's up, Jari? I'm glad you can make it. Ziggy, welcome in. Okay, so if you guys are just joining us now, we're trying to put together an amateur profile of who may have set the fire in Flora that killed 4 sisters. So we're putting together basically a matrix, I guess. Right now, we're looking for somebody who's extremely angry, white male, typically, mid-teens to 25 to 30 years old, undereducated, non-graduate, average to below average IQ, isolated, may be motivated by revenge, attention, or power, and most likely return to the scene of the crime. Welcome in, Ziggy. Good to see you. His first barn fires were in Kosciuszko County, Indiana, but then they got him in more barns full of animals. Remember that tape where the guy was laughing so evilly as he watched a house burn? Oh, yeah, I think I might have that. I collected quite a bit for today's live stream. I think I actually have that, Jari. Now that you mention it, I might have it. What's going on, Melissa? Oh, here we go. Kosciuszko. Kosciuszko. Is that another Native American word? What's up, Jeanette? All right, if you guys are just joining, we're putting together an amateur profile who may be responsible for the Flora arson fires. Remember, there were multiple people renting the home. You had the main dwelling, which was the 4 sisters and their mother. And then you had a separate dwelling that you can access from a stairwell on the outside of the home, which was somewhat of a master bedroom and a separate bathroom. The fire took place sometime around 3 a.m., if I'm not mistaken. It was started in the back. Somebody came in through the back of the home, in through the mudroom, up into the kitchen, somewhat into the dining area, and then back out. and the back door does not close or it doesn't lock. So somebody may have had knowledge of that as well. It's hard to do the victimology with this case because I'm not sure who was targeted. I don't know if there was an altercation. We don't know if it's revenge, attention, or power. We don't know which one, we don't know who was targeted. Financial. Yeah, we didn't put that one on there, huh? Hey, what's going on, Jerry? Sleuth. So do arsonists progress into evil fires? Well, according to this article and what I've read, there's two types of arsonists. There's one who's destructive and one who's using it as a tool to commit, murder. And some they just want to maybe light a brush fire. They just want to see, they want to sit back. They might even bring a chair and they'll sit back and watch all of these fire trucks pull up. They might take a video. So I don't know. There's different types there's like the psychological arsonist, the fire bug. And then you have somebody who might be hired or motivated to light one fire. And they don't even really, it's not something they're into. They're not a pyromaniac, so to speak. It's just a means to an end. A lot of people think that with the Flora fires that it was financially motivated by the owners of the home. And I could see that. Maybe they weren't happy with the lease. Maybe their intentions were to tear down that home to begin with. Maybe they had some other goal in mind that I don't know of. And their intentions were not to kill anybody, maybe just to burn the house down. If you light the fire and it becomes condemned, those people that were renting there can no longer live there. And if they don't know who started the fire, who are they going to blame it on? All the owners know is that, hey, there's no longer a lease here. I have no more renters. The home has been condemned. And that's it. But instead, they ended up murdering 4 children. I haven't seen any evidence to that, but I mean, that's the leading theory, I think, right now, is that this was done for financial reasons. Nothing to do with revenge, attention, power, or psychological. Could be very well just financial. Me, I think it was psychological. There you go, Hiawatha. That's why I was late. So we've been doing this really long walk and I forgot to have breakfast. So I had another cup of coffee and breakfast, and the cat must have turned off the computer. So I had to restart that. Must have stepped on the power cord or something. Necessary Evil says the problem is the setter might not necessarily be the one responsible. What do you mean? How do you set it and not be responsible? What do you mean? For this particular arson, it seems the profile should include membership of the fraternal and or service organization, Lions Club, Rotary, Masons, Eagles, etc. Why? Why would that be part of a profile? Just curious, BM. Just trying to understand where you're coming from. So this guy was not in jail at the time of the Flora fires. Which guy? My guy? My person of interest? His fires were from... No, this guy. This guy has nothing to do with Flora. All these cases that we're covering, they're not connected to Flora. We're not trying to find a suspect and connect them to Flora. That's not what we're doing. We're going to cover these cases. We're going to see how they profiled these individuals. We're going to look at why they were profiled, what they were looking at, the criminology of it all. And then we're going to see if we can learn anything from these cases and apply it to the Flora fires. Hey, what's up, LA? So we got law enforcement's in the building. Welcome in, LA. Oh, I got you, Boston. Yeah, whoever this was came in through the back. And anybody that came and was coming and going in that home, or was friend or family to anybody that was living there, knew that the back door really didn't shut. You couldn't really lock it. So if you guys want to apply that to your profile, that's up to you. That could be useful, it might not be. He burned big white old barns. Flora house is a big white old house, so that's just strange. All right, let's continue on with this article here. In rare cases, blazes can even be set by firefighters as part of a sort of a hero impulse. So a lot of that goes on here in Arizona. They go through these dry seasons and then people set actual forest fires. That happened a lot in California too. There are a number of cases each year where firefighters start fires, according to Garrett, especially in scenarios where there are occupants. The firefighter is provided with people to rescue. Maybe we can apply that to the first responders in Flora, put them under a microscope. This was the case with one of the most famous serial arsonists in Los Angeles history, John Leonard Orr. Orr, a former fire captain, is believed to be responsible for nearly 2,000 fires in Los Angeles between 1984 and 1991. Damn. Orr is currently serving a life sentence in connection with the fires. Damn, 2,000 fires. Los Angeles Police Chief Charlie Beck said today that he believed officers apprehended the sole arsonist. I feel very good that we've got the right guy, had the right stuff in his van, and we were very confident we found our man, Beck said. For now, the people of Los Angeles can only wait, hoping that the fires will stop and the man in police custody is the real arsonist. Okay, now let me pull up that other piece of info. Yeah, I agree, Boston. Maybe it's not so random. It appears random. If you're putting it in that context, it would appear random, but to somebody, it's not so random. Necessary Evil says, usually arsonists have geographical range they tend to stick to. Yeah, I call that the anchor point. They won't go out of that range. Thank you, Boston. All right, so this is the U.S. Department of Justice report of essential findings from a study of serial arsonists. So before we get into any of these other cases, let's learn a little bit more about what it is that we're looking for and who it is that we're looking for. Serial arson was defined as an offense committed by fire setters who set 3 or more fires with a significant cooling off period between fires. Data were obtained on attributes, characteristics, motives, and life history patterns of 83 serial arsonists who agreed to participate in the study. A sample of 42 subjects representing one eastern and one western state was interviewed during the 1978-1980 period, while a second sample of 41 subjects in several different state correctional systems was interviewed during the 1990 to 1992 period. Records of nearly 1,000 incarcerated arsonists were also reviewed. Findings revealed that most serial arsonists were young, white males. 58.7% of fires were set by offenders before 18 years of age. Okay, so we might be looking for a younger person. So I'm putting that in my profile. We're looking for a young, white male. Uh, 58.7% of fires were set by offenders before 18 years of age. So minors, really. 79.7% were set before 29 years of age. So I think it's safe to say between 16 and 30. Overall, marital adjustment and life histories of serial arsonists were poor, suggesting that they lacked stability, interpersonal relationships. That fits with my person of interest. I mean, he's in jail for literally beating his wife and like sexually assaulting her in front of his kids. Let's see here. The average educational level of serial arsonist was 10th grade. Okay, 10th grade. %71 reported prior felony arrests. That matches with my guy. Over half reported significant medical histories. Only about 1/3 had regular occupations. And none were employed in professional positions. The family situation for most serial arsonists was either comfortable or at least self-sufficient. And like I said, guys, most of this information is directed at serial arson. I know we're most likely not dealing with or may not be dealing with a serial arsonist, but still, the person who's using fire as a weapon, I think kind of fits. This will help us with our profile. No discernible patterns were observed in the overall target selection of serial arsonist accomplices were involved in 20.3% of arson cases. So the majority of cases, they work alone. I think that we can put that down. Most likely works alone. Where are we at? Nearly all serial arsonists use unsophisticated methods to set fires, and about 1/3 remained at the scene after setting the fire. So this is where we're hearing that again, that they remained at the scene. It's all about the show. I want to see. I want to see my handiwork. Nearly half the sample used alcohol before setting fires. Okay, that goes with my person of interest. So alcohol involved. Yeah, this is fitting quite nicely with my guy here. The majority of serial arsonists set only one fire in a location. So yeah, maybe it's not so random. I'm going to set a fire here, and then I'm going to go to a separate town somewhere, nowhere around here. Nearly half the sample used alcohol before setting fires. The most common motive for setting fires was revenge, followed by excitement. They always wanted to set somebody on fire or kill somebody by fire, and here's their opportunity. All right, so we're going to circle revenge. All right, guys. So we're most likely looking for somebody that did not graduate high school, didn't get past the 10th grade, between the age of 16 and 30, um, drinks, maybe an alcoholic, motivated by revenge. So I don't know of anything that took place regarding the Flora fires of an incident. There could be. Maybe that's information that hasn't been released to the public yet. So possibly revenge, and most likely works alone, isolated, and most likely returned to the scene of the crime. Yeah, I'm sure, with the right amount of money, you can get somebody to do anything. We're looking at statistically, who are we looking for? What type of person? If we're going to create a profile out of thin air, we got to use what fits the best. And right now, what we're learning is that we're looking for somebody who definitely is a drinker, most likely will be a young white male. I'm going to say between 16 and 30 at the time of the crime. Maybe only has up to a 10th grade level education. Maybe most likely motivated by revenge, working alone, and return to the crime scene. That's who it appears that we're looking for. All right, so I have a handful of other cases that we're going to look at. We'll see if we can learn anything from these. AG, who's AG, Linda? Is that Ashley? I mean, she's a convicted murderer. Necessary Evil says, I'm not sure on the young part. Whoever made sure they didn't disturb the victims and made a stealthy entrance. Adam Ayers is my person of interest. Fits this profile too. He may have been a little bit older. I think he might have been in his 30s. Maybe he was younger. He might have been in his he might have been like 28 at the time. I'm not sure. That part might not match. Don't quote me on the age, but everything else. That's interesting, Linda. How do you know that? Where'd you get that information? I'll be happy to take a look at it. If anybody ever wants to email me, you can. sleuthintuition@gmail.com. Also, are we sure Galen were the targets? No. That's why it's hard. That's why I said earlier on the stream, Charles, that it's hard for us to do the victimology here because there were multiple people who are renting from that home. From my understanding, there was a few people that were coming and going throughout the day. Who knows? Maybe they were the target. Who knows? I guarantee there's a lot of the story that we don't know. Every person on this planet is motivated by their own factors, right? We all have our own motivating factors, our motivations. Sergeant Thompson handled polygraphs in this arson as well as the Delphi killings. Then she and her daughter died in a fire. Her husband was out of town. He was a firefighter, a coroner, and now a judge. Yeah, but what does that have to do with the Flora fires? We're looking for the guy who came into the backyard of this home. They came in and they dumped accelerant all over. They came in through the back door, walked in through the mudroom, walked up 3 steps and into the kitchen. and even walked into the dining room, which is right next to the kitchen, and dumped accelerants all over that area. Lit it with a lighter or a match and left. Whether they intended to kill four girls, kill anybody, um, just create destruction of the home, we don't know. But it has nothing to do with anything else other than that. Let's try to stay focused here. Jari's asking, would that be revenge against the family or the owner? Yeah, are they targeting the occupants or are they targeting the house itself? That's why it's almost impossible to do the victimology with this. We don't even, we don't know who they were aiming for. Suspect number one. Oh, it's on the 10th. Thank you, Boston. Yep. First at the scene. He has history with that home. He's related to the owners. So for all we know, something bad happened to him in that house. He has a long history of heavy meth abuse. And we're talking about my person of interest. He has charges for theft so that he could finance his addiction. He's attacked his own family. He's extremely violent, alcoholic. So who's to say he didn't get all fucked up one night? He was living next door. So not only was he already awake, and we know that for a fact, that he was awake at his home at 2:45, and the fire started right around that time, like right around 3 o'clock is when the fire started. So he's the first one on the scene. He's got a history of violent crime, sexual, violent, drugs. He's in prison now, and he's connected to that home. That used to be his grandfather's home. So he's been in that home. He has intimate knowledge of the home. And all he would have to do is walk 10 steps, and he's in the backyard of Galen Rose, a home that he's been at hundreds of times. And he would most likely know about the door. He would know the layout. Yeah. Thank you, Jari. All right, where should we start? Here, let's catch up on the chat first. Are you saying revenge, Charles? Like something happened? So these are the motivating factors: revenge, attention, power, financial. Which one is it? You're saying financial. What's going on, Frank? He was a known firebug, and that was his dad's or uncle's house. The heir's name is quite influential in Carroll County. See, that's what I've been trying to find out. I don't know for a fact if he was a known firebug. I've been searching for that information. So if you can tell me where you found that Hiawatha, I would like to get my hands on that. Because I mean, if he's a known firebug, thank you, Jar. Yeah, if you haven't already, hit the like button, subscribe, share, all that good stuff. Welcome in, Jeanette. Traumatic event. So let's say something bad happened to him in that home. He gets drunk, gets all messed up on meth, drinks a bottle of Jack Daniels, starts remembering of what happened in that home. Now he's living next door, he's looking at this home. So I think something psychological happened and may have lit the fire, attack the home, not the people in the home. Let's try to stay focused. Yeah, what is the trigger? You know, this person is known for violent outbursts. So I'm thinking alcohol abuse, drug abuse, and then that's the trigger, right? In the report, the neighbor, Adam Ayers, his wife is on record saying that I was already up at 2:45 a.m. Something already woke her up. And she said, I was trying to go back to sleep. She didn't say we, she didn't say me and my husband, something woke us up. And we were trying to go back to sleep. And then we heard Galen screaming outside. That's not what happened. On record, she states, I was already up at 2:45 and I was trying to go back to sleep. So what woke her up? Remember, earlier that year, her husband was released from prison for beating her, choking her, sexually assaulting her in front of their children. He went to prison for that, was released, and now is the neighbor of Galen Rose. This meth addict, this violent sexual criminal who has history in that home. Hiawatha says, Sleuth, it was from a local. I'll remember where I heard it and email you. Thank you. I would appreciate that. I would like to reach out to that person. I mean, that's a slam dunk right there. Right now, he's just a person of interest, right? He fits the profile. What are we looking for? We're looking for a white male, very angry. Most cases of arson that have been reported had alcohol involved. This guy is an alcoholic. The age, I can't remember his age. I'll have to get back to you on that. Undereducated. I don't know. He may be a non-graduate. According to Hiawatha, he may be a firebug. Kathy, welcome in. Good to see you. So I don't know. Is he looking for revenge, attention, power, financial? And he was the first responder. So technically he did return to the crime scene. Maybe he was even lurking outside at some point, watching through the windows. Would be working alone. So definitely fits the profile. Meth, yep. So if he's awake, he's already, his wife stated that she was awake. So he's doing something. He's creating a ruckus already, right? He's already drunk. He's being loud. It's 2 a.m. He just won't shut the fuck up. She can't say anything because he's already out of prison for what he did to her before. If she says anything, he might lash out. So you got this terrifying person here. And right next door to that man, a fire set in the back of the home of a fire that he's extremely familiar with. Maybe she wasn't the neighbor and just she was. What does that mean, Kathy? All right, we're all caught up on the chat. Let's go through some of these cases here and see if we can learn anything.
For decades, Minneapolis residents lived in fear of a serial arsonist, and police believe he set at least 73 fires.
But despite a long criminal history, the convicted arsonist served just under 3 months' time for his latest torching. How could that be?
Well, Fox 9 investigator Tom Lydon explains and talks with the man who reveals how many fires he may have actually set in the last 40 years.
It's like something right out of a movie or something.
For Robert Gruby, that movie played out last May in the back alley of a halfway house in North Minneapolis.
He took a burning log from that fire pit.
when his truck was torched by a roommate on a drinking binge.
He'd come down and play the alpha male and be intoxicated, overbearing, and talking and bragging about his arson past.
Turns out this movie was a sequel, a fiery franchise playing for nearly 40 years. Unknown to Groovy, he was living with one of the most prolific pyromaniacs in Minneapolis, serial arsonist Alan Theodore Anger. And if you don't believe it, ask him.
I said, I'm Al Anger, the arsonist.
Just don't make Anger angry.
Took a
His last name is
burning log
Anger.
out of the fire pit and threw it in his truck and walked away. Next thing I know, I'm in jail.
During the 1980s, along Central Avenue in Northeast Minneapolis, a firebug was born. By 16, a sophomore at Edison High School, Alan Anger was charged as an adult with arson for burning down a neighbor's garage. By the 90s, he was torching businesses and homes, neighbors living and sleeping in fear of the man they nicknamed Backdraft.
People couldn't sleep at night. They were scared.
He was walking around out behind the alley, carrying his chair so he had a place to sit and watch.
Anger was convicted of 4 separate arsons, but he was a suspect in at least 73.
All right, did you guys hear that? He brought a chair so that he can sit and watch. So I feel like that's something that's important to anybody using fire as a method of their destruction, right? They want to watch. So we might have to come back and watch that dash cam footage on another live stream. Or what I'll do is I'll go through it and I'll take screenshots of all of the people that are out there at the scene of the crime. And we'll zoom in on them and we'll categorize them.
Others over the years, including a massive blaze that burned down several businesses and apartments at the corner of Central and Lowry. It's a story I covered when I met Anger for the first time.
Police tell the Fox 9 investigators that's precisely Anger's MO, getting drunk and setting fires.
I ain't talking to these guys.
Why aren't you talking to me,
What do
Al?
you want me for?
Getting drunk.
Because we're interested in what you know about that arson 2 blocks away.
Where?
2 blocks away.
Up here in Lowry?
Uh-huh.
I don't know nothing.
One man even died from a heart attack while putting out a fire right next door to where Anger lived most of his adult life with his late mother, who was often his alibi and enabler.
And he was so out of it, they couldn't even rouse him. So how the hell could he be lighting a fire an hour before that? So not only that, but he's just a good guy, but you can't keep him off the sauce.
But you could put him in prison.
This is a man who has terrorized Northeast Minneapolis.
In 2005, prosecutors charged Anger as a career offender, calling him an uncontrollable serial arsonist, a danger to public safety, saying nothing in the criminal justice system can protect society from Alan Anger other than to incarcerate him for as long as possible under the law. Anger got in prison.
I don't know nothing about it.
Well, you're an arsonist, Al, and you live 2 blocks away.
When he got out of prison, he stayed away from fire until that day last May when he torched Bob Groovy's truck. Anger telling police that is what you get when you refer to himself as the arsonist.
In that truck fire, Alan Anger would plead guilty to arson in the 2nd degree last July. It would be his 5th arson conviction. Just one problem. No one that mattered knew that. Not the judge, not the prosecutor. That's because in Minnesota, generally speaking, only convictions from the last 15 years are considered relevant for sentencing. It meant Anger was about to get the deal of his life.
With most of Anger's public rap sheet erased, a 28-month prison sentence was stayed. And instead, prosecutors gave Anger a plea deal, 120 days in the county workhouse. With time served and good behavior, he was locked up for only 78 days. 78 days for a career arsonist. The prosecutor assigned the case makes a stunning admission at Anger's sentencing, telling the judge, "You know, quite honestly, I didn't know Mr. Anger's prolific arson history going into this. I didn't realize he had all the previous arsons. I think 120 days is too low. I would never have offered that in the first place, had I known that.
I believe in redemption, and people have an opportunity to work their way. Frankly, we're a
Redemption.
little surprised that he committed the same kind of crime at this point in time. Maybe we shouldn't be.
In fact, Anger could have been prosecuted once again as a career offender, which fell within the 15-year period and would have led to mandatory prison time. But Hennepin County Attorney Mike Freeman says the sentence fits what is essentially a property crime.
Every time we put a person in prison, it's costing $40,000 a year. And for this kind of crime, we felt that some workhouse time and having the rest of it hang over his head was the proper sentence. And I think the judge who makes the final decision agreed.
We spent weeks looking for Anger. Unlike the worst repeat sex offenders, the address of a serial arsonist isn't considered public.
I'm Tom from Channel 9. I'm looking for your brother.
We found Anger's older brother, Floyd, who was as stunned by his brother's plea deal as anyone.
They get their job to look up what people's history is before they, you should have got 20 years.
Well, that's what I
don't put that on TV.
Eventually, we also found Alan Anger, apparently sober and in a good mood. So we decided to learn all we could.
What did you think of the sentencing? What did you think you were looking at? What did you think when it happened?
Well, I thought I would get at least a couple years, if not 3 or 4. When they offered the 90 days, it surprised me, and I was going to fight it, argue it. So I'll take 90 days, no problem.
How many fires do you think you've actually set?
Quite a few.
I mean, are we talking dozens, or are we talking
more than dozens?
More than dozens.
Yeah.
Hundreds?
That'd be fairly accurate.
Yeah.
Over 100.
His lack
How many of those fires that he said are unsolved murders?
of remorse is just astounding.
Sean McKenna is a retired Minneapolis police arson investigator who followed Anger for his entire career.
Why do you think he does it?
He's an underachiever and he gets angry, and this is the only way he knows to even the score in his own mind. It's his way of taking control. It's he gets some power now.
All right, there you have it. He's talking about power. One of those motivating factors. We had listed revenge, attention, power, or financial, but we'll call this one power and control.
And look at what I did. I set all this in motion, all these fire trucks, all these people coming out to see. I did this. I control something. I have the power.
And the odds were in his favor. Most arsonists get away with it. A crime with few witnesses, and fire destroys most of the evidence. Nationally, only 1 in 10 arson cases lead to an arrest, and only 1% lead to a successful prosecution. Anger is really the exception, the usual suspect. And those who know him best don't believe he'll ever stop.
I don't think you can ever rehabilitate him. Fire setters, sex offenders, child molesters, you don't rehabilitate them.
Do you think you're done setting fires?
Pretty much, yeah. I should have known better than to set this last one.
Anger has said that before. He told us he'll be moving soon. Doesn't know where, or at least he wouldn't tell us.
Hopefully this is not your neighbor. Here's a bulletin. If this guy moved in next to you, beware. The guy's name was Angry. Don't make Angry angry. He'll burn your shit down.
Our top story, an accused arsonist caught on camera. Tonight, the terrifying crime investigators are calling random.
I'm just in shock and absolute utter disbelief.
That man is in jail charged with intentionally setting his neighbor's home on fire while they were asleep. Good evening, everyone. I'm Kelly Jackson.
And I'm Mike Bush. This happened in North St. Louis County on Riverwoods Estates Boulevard between Hartershell and Charbonnier Roads. New tonight, Robert Townsend shows us the video.
Okay, something I want you guys to really focus in on this case here is it was random. This could be something that we're dealing with the Flora fire, something very similar to this here.
That stunned police and neighbors.
Investigators say in the thick of the night, just after 1 Tuesday morning, a couple's Ring security system caught this man on video intentionally setting their home in Florissant on fire.
All of a sudden, your whole world is on fire.
Sandy Kessler is the couple's
Literally.
insurance agent and friend. She says their neighbor suspect, Joshua Thomas, first rode an electric scooter down to Craig and Teresa Lakenberger's home on Riverwood Estates Boulevard, got off the scooter, and then walked onto their front porch.
He is literally.
It looks like he has a camera on his head. You see that? Let me go back right there. What is that on it? It looks like he has a camera.
And then walked onto their front porch.
He is literally chilling and looking at his phone or doing something on his phone while he's about ready to set their house on fire.
According to a probable cause statement, Thomas suddenly lit an object and placed it next to the exterior wall of the couple's front porch while they slept.
He lights the igniter and stands there and watches it until it's big enough that he can walk away knowing it's gonna do damage.
Police say flames raced across the couple's roof, blew off.
Let's go to Boston Christian right here. You can find your power and control by helping others. See if you can help 15 people in one day. The thing is, what they've discovered is they have something psychological is off with them. They find a strange release, by setting a fire, something that they've had buried deep in their psychological, their subconscious, is able to rest, some kind of trauma. So by lighting these fires, it's a release for them. They're able to, it makes them feel great, maybe even sexually.
Off their garage door, destroy their home of 40 years, their cars in their garage, and more. The couple got out of their house thanks to their barking dog and their smoke alarm. Kessler is
100%
convinced,
Mustang.
without a doubt, that's what saved their lives.
Arson is definitely a coward's tool. You have some murderers that go out there and they take that risk. They might use a knife, which is very personal, hands-on, very risky. And then you have the type of killers that, like a freeway sniper, school shooter, or an arsonist, right? They can set the fire and walk away and kind of sit from the comfort of some kind of seclusion and watch their handiwork.
They got up and in seconds got out the back of the house.
Police arrested Thomas down the street at his home. They say he was still wearing the
Right
same
up the street.
red mask and black.
Okay, so this guy lived right up the street, same neighborhood. So who's to say somebody didn't just walk by the home, sneak in the backyard, notice the door was unlocked, walked in there, and they just happened to be a firebug with mental health issues, just like this man. He has no relationship with these folks here, just happened to be riding by and lit the house on fire. Could have killed everybody in the home.
Black clothing he had on in this video.
Absolutely random.
How do you profile
they don't know
that?
Each other.
Kessler will help her friend.
Oh yeah, that was the point of this. So our profile, right? White male, anger, all kinds of issues. This guy, he's black. He is young though, but he really just doesn't fit the profile. He didn't fit the profile statistically, what we're looking at, or what we should be looking for. But he fits everything but the white part. So he appears to be isolated, young, between the ages of 16 and 30. I don't know if he was under the influence of alcohol. But what was his motivation? Revenge, attention, power, financial? I'm assuming power. Like, look, I'm going to destroy this house right here. I live right here so I can park my shit. And when I hear all the sirens, it'll look natural for me to come walking up the street. So yeah, that one might be power and control, attention.
Arsonists make statements in court that
can't believe it. At random too. Why?
Since a state of emergency was declared in Queensland on November 9, police have taken action against 18 people for deliberately lighting fires, and shockingly, more than half of those are children.
Yeah, the question that so many of us find ourselves asking when this happens is what motivates a child to carry out such a destructive act? Well, to help us get a bit of a better understanding on it all, we're joined by psychologist Sandy Ray. Sandy, hello to you. Take us
morning,
through
Tom and Deb.
the motivating factors behind adolescent fire starters like the ones that the police have had to deal with in not just Queensland but around the country.
Look, it's quite bewildering, isn't it, for most of us to sit here and rationally.
Yeah, we don't know who started the fires in Flora. We don't know if it was a kid. We don't know if it was a teenager. We don't know if it was a grown-ass man. So we're not gonna put our blinders on.
Say, what's wrong with these kids? Why do they do it? And the American Psychological Society has come up with a list of why certain children do it. So it's a vast list, 6 different categories of why children do it. You know, the young ones do it out of curiosity. That's one reason. Some do it for a cry for help. There's distress at home. There's family chaos. They're feeling disconnected or bullied. Another category they've identified is delinquent children. So typically children who engage in risky behaviour. Whilst they understand what they're doing, they actually don't understand the consequences or devastation they could potentially cause. Another category they've identified is severely disturbed. So children who possibly engage in pyromania, who really are either psychotic or have psychotic episodes. Another or 2 more categories are the cognitively impaired children. So people who suffer some sort of mental incapacity. And sociocultural is a 6th group that they've identified. And the sociocultural, what that means is children who are pressured by their peers or a group of children getting together and challenge or dare each other to do such a thing.
And then what is the difference then between someone, a child who might, as you say, listing all of those areas, who might do this out of curiosity, out of peer pressure, but then someone then who will go on to continue to light fires later into life?
Well, it's typically thought of as the young ones, the ones who are doing the curiosity are very young children. You know, they do it once off. The other one is really a psychological disorder called pyromania. And those children and those teenagers are classified as either having some sort of mood disorder, substance abuse. They're coming from very disadvantaged homes. And they're the ones that we really need to be mindful of because they do it out of an impulse control. They get excited and aroused. And when they light that fire, it then also releases a tension or an anxiety that sits deep within them.
So for parents out there, what's your advice to them to try and stop their children from going down this path?
Well, one thing we really know about these children is that, especially the ones who consistently light fires, is that these are often children whose parents are very disengaged. So I guess the overarching message here is that parents need to be involved with their children. They need to set very clear boundaries about fire setting. They also need to ensure that children are not given the responsibility of starting fires, of lighting fires, lighting candles, lighting the fireplace at home, and be very diligent about
So I'm curious if there were any small fires lit in Flora. You know, we're always looking online and doing our research, trying to find these major fires, you know, that were reported, and the fire department, you know, everybody was called out to the scene, and maybe somebody didn't die, but the home burned down. But what about just like a small brush fire, or somebody's setting a dumpster on fire? I wonder if there was anything like that reported in Flora. You know, maybe this is some kind of an escalation. Some young teenage boy that lives in the house, maybe next door, behind, up the street or something, and they escalated their pyromania. Just a thought.
Communicating what are the consequences of lighting fires, because we know that children don't understand the consequences of their action. That's why we have children's court. It's nationally and internationally understood that children, whilst they say, oh, they know what they're doing, a lot of children actually don't know why what they're doing, and that's why under 18 we have a different set of laws for children.
And that is the question too about punishment. How do we go about punishing juveniles who do start these fires? How do authorities deal with it?
Well, in recognition that we know that there's at least 6 different categories of types of children and fire settings, the treatments and the intervention are according to the child. So if you have a child who is cognitively impaired, you're not going to dish out the same sort of treatment as a 17-year-old who is being a delinquent, who's a repeat offender. So, we have cognitive behaviour therapy, we have family counselling, we have incarceration, we have restorative justice, where these children go back into the community, meet the burns victims or meet people and walk through the community and see the damage they've done. We've got fire education, we've got psychotherapy. So it really depends on the type of child that we're dealing with. So it's a very eclectic mix of treatment and consequences and punishment.
This man, Joseph McIntyre, is due back in court tomorrow.
We've been breaking developments on this story for weeks, and now we're getting a pretty good look inside of the investigation and the mind of an arsonist. A tip led Grand Rapids police to McIntyre, who police say admitted to setting 9 fires in Metro Grand Rapids.
But even before the tip, police had a good idea of who they were looking for.
24-hour News 8's Joe LaFurgey had the rare opportunity to talk.
All right, so this guy put together a profile, and it helped lead to the arrest of this arsonist here. So let's pay close attention to this guy.
With the profiler who gave investigators the description they needed.
When a firebug terrorized neighborhoods in and around Grand Rapids over the summer, local investigators were getting tips, but they needed a different perspective. One Ron Tunkel could provide.
What's really going on here? What might a motive or combination of motives be in this case? And what type of offender we might be looking at? What type of individual we might be looking at?
Tunkel is a Federal Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives profiler assigned to the FBI's Behavioral Science Unit. We talked to Tunkel by satellite from Washington, D.C., Now, because the case is still under investigation, there was only so much he could tell us about his role in catching Joseph McIntyre. He's the 23-year-old who's admitted to 9 fires, mostly set near Woodland Mall this summer. But what Tunkel has learned from past
Young
profiles
white male
is like holding a mirror to the McIntyre case.
What we tend to think about these types of offenders is that they operate in an area that they feel comfortable in, they blend in, they fit in, they belong there.
See, that's what Charles Necessary Evil was saying earlier, almost verbatim.
McIntyre lived in the neighborhood where most of the fires were set, just west of Woodland Mall. One of those fires was set in a laundry room in the building where McIntyre lived. Then there's motive.
Revenge against society. Maybe he hasn't done too well in life. Maybe there's stressors operating in his life and he feels like striking out.
Those close to McIntyre says he's had a tough life. His own sister described him as sick, his mind troubled.
Jeez.
There are suggestions he'd lost control, lost power over his own life. Past fire setters have suggested that as another symptom.
They tell us through their fire setting that the power is a means to maintain power. The fire setting is a means to maintain power, regain power, and demonstrate their power.
McIntyre also fit the profile in other, less specific ways.
I think in the research, over 90% of the serial arsonists were males.
No name, no physical description. Tunkel's investigative skills gave local investigators a sort of silhouette of who they were looking for.
So that's kind of what we're trying to do here. We're trying to create a silhouette of who we're looking for and all of the information that we're putting together here. Now, this is just typically there's going to be, it's not going to be exact. This is not an exact science. But statistically, we're looking for a young white male between the ages of 16 and 30 with anger issues, alcohol abuse, isolated, maybe only a 10th grade education, high school education. We already said isolated, and most likely returned to the scene of the crime and was most likely motivated by revenge, attention, power and control, or something financial.
In the end, it was a tip that led investigators to set up the trap that McIntyre walked right into. Tunkel says that's the way it usually works.
My part in a criminal investigation is just a small bit. And the cases that I've seen successfully worked, it's good old-fashioned, hard detective work.
In Grand Rapids, Joe LaFergie, 24-Hour News 8.
Are being blamed for dozens of fires across California.
Let's go to Hiawatha. This comment says, "Oh, think it's a good idea to go through the dash cam footage again and single out those who are there." Yeah, I think we should categorize those folks and kind of figure out what we know about them. Do we know their name? Do we know why they're there? Seems like the authorities would have already vetted your POI, but with all family ties, I don't know. I mean, they don't vet. Doesn't seem like they vet anybody. I mean, look what they did with Richard Allen. Look what they're doing with the hell is that name of that case? Kallenberger, Brian Kallenberger. They had witnesses that came forward and said that they saw his dead body. They even helped load it into the back of a vehicle. They know all the people who were involved in his murder. And that's another case headed up by Holman. And shit, still no arrest. So they can have a list of people that they're interested in, but if they don't have any actual solid evidence, there's really nothing that they can do. You know, they can't get locked in that box and get tunnel vision. So for all we know, they might suspect this person, but without any solid information or a good tip, nothing they can do.
Are being blamed for dozens of fires across California, including the Lake County fire that torched that community.
2 people have been arrested within the last week for 2 separate fires, and experts say their motives aren't always the same. So what's in the mind of an arsonist? CBS 13's Jennifer McGraw joins us now with the answer.
Yeah, Tony and Christina, turns out there are several classifications of arsonists. Some are pyromaniacs and are obsessed with fire. Others have ulterior motives.
It is a tragic day, however, when we identify any individual who intentionally starts a fire.
40-year-old Damon Pashilk of Lake County is facing 17 counts of arson for destroying parts of this small community and leaving so many asking why.
We don't know. We just don't know.
Pashilk was an inmate firefighter and has been a suspect in other arsons. Experts say he could be acting on a hero impulse.
He's getting the thrill to see the fire engines roar, coming roaring up the street with the lights and sirens and the multitude of engines that are responding. And he enjoys seeing all this action going on.
Retired state arson and bomb investigator Larry Navarrete says arsonists set fires for many different reasons: revenge, fraud, the thrill of it, and others for vanity. Wayne Huntsman took this selfie video after he started the King Fire in El Dorado County that burned for 27 days in 2014. It shows him narrowly escaping the fire.
Show off his knowledge, or maybe where the fire is, make him look good.
Tuesday afternoon, Metro Fire saw this blaze across Highway 50 and a man running from it. They say Charles Anderson is responsible for setting multiple fires along the way. Navarrete says arsons are tough crimes to investigate, and sometimes the motive is even harder to understand.
We'll find out why they did that. And a lot of times it was just the thrill of it.
And statistics show 25% of fires in the U.S. are arson and only 10% are prosecuted. Investigators say the evidence is usually circumstantial and seldom do they get an eyewitness.
So everything about the Flora fire case is uphill. You know, they have everything stacked against them. So even if they find out or make an arrest, the prosecution is already an uphill battle. Is another battle. 1% of cases are prosecuted. That's crazy.
Also out of the Houston area, a man is being held on a $200,000 bond after he was caught on video trying to set his neighbor's home on fire. He did it while holding a samurai-style sword. This happened at a neighborhood in Katy, west of Houston. The video shows 46-year-old Philae Nguyen pouring gasoline all over a driveway last week. The owner saw it all on her camera and says she went out and tried to put out the fire.
He actually started pouring it up underneath my truck. Then that's when he started pouring it all in front of the driveway and everything else. So at this time, I'm trying to put the fire out. I'm trying to run back in the house and call 911.
Deputies say they had to shock Wynn with a taser to get him into custody. He faces several charges, including felony arson and aggravated assault.
This dude is definitely high out of his mind. I mean, look, he almost smacked a fly off of his leg with a sword. Do you see that? Like, bro, did you forget that that's a sword?
He faces several charges.
He just almost
including
chopped his own
felony
leg off.
arson and aggravated assault.
So I think this is something very similar that most likely happened with Flora. Like a neighbor. I think it was somebody very close by who did it. Psychologically motivated, maybe power and control. Something along those lines. All right, two more.
Sue and Lauren, we just
We'll
found
have
out
a
from
short
police
discussion
the
on-
identity of this alleged suspect. Take a look. KTLA first broke this story yesterday. Multiple pictures surfaced after we did this story. Now, police say early this morning, officers arrested Christian Portillo, a 31-year-old resident of Long Beach who was booked on arson and possession of a concealed dirk or dagger. A viewer saw the story that we did yesterday, checked his home security footage of an arson a mile away, and believes his cameras captured that same man in action, endangering the community. At least 3 of the suspicious fires occurred.
So again, the Flora fire started late at night. So that kind of fits into a similar scenario of what we're seeing here. Somebody kind of walking the streets late at night, feeling like they're the only ones on the earth. Like when you're up late and everybody's asleep, you feel like you're the only person on the planet, right? When you're walking down, let's say, I don't know if you've ever been in a large city downtown at like 3 or 4 a.m. I mean, you're the only person there. Typically, it's extremely busy. So you might feel like you own the place. So if you're some kind of pyromaniac, you're going to walk around doing this shit.
At the Camden apartment complex that's in downtown Long Beach. A tenant
up,
snapped
Cindy?
pictures and video of the man considered a person of interest in at least 5 fires in the past 2 weeks. Long Beach Fire Department says the suspect was caught attempting to set another car on fire at the Camden apartments again around 3 o'clock this morning. Somehow the alarms went off as he popped off the gas cap. However, they would not release any more details, but said it was a successful operation between arson investigators, Long Beach PD, and the public.
We are thankful for the community at large.
All right, guys. That is it for that is all the time we have. And we are all caught up on the chat. So if you're part of the replay crew, anything you'd like to add, this is the profile that I was able to come up with on my end here. Young white male between 16 and 30, did not graduate high school, anger issues, abuses alcohol, drugs, isolated, is motivated by revenge, attention, power control, or financial, and most likely returned to the scene of the crime and was working alone. So let me know what you guys think about that. We will be going live again a little bit later tonight. So keep a lookout for that notification. I'm going to try to, but definitely Wednesday will be a members only meeting. So all you members out there, make sure you look out for that notification. All of you mods, thanks for keeping the chat chill. And for all of you who are catching this on replay, shout out to you. Let me know what you think. Give me your profile. Let me know what you think about the information that was presented to you today in this live stream. All of my donors, big shout out to you guys. You guys have been killing it. Thanks for hitting up the Cash App, the Venmo, all of you members who pay for a membership. If it wasn't for all of you guys, I wouldn't be here right now. So I'm doing this for you guys. and you make it possible. So I'll see you again a little bit later today, hopefully. And if not, we'll have a couple streams tomorrow, definitely a members only. So be there or be square. Peace.